All right, we are rolling. Welcome back to Sip and Talk, everyone. I am your host, Joe, and I've got my co-host here with me, ready to get into it. Sunny? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all you Sip and Talkers out there, whatever time zone you're listening from.
Hey everyone, so I am currently taking a massive sip of my iced Americano because, honestly, I need it today. Did you catch Trump's 27-minute primetime national address last night?
Oh, I watched the whole thing.
I mean, I watched it and it just completely woke me up. This wasn't just your typical, politician ranting at a camera. Trump was standing there in the White House directly declassifying intelligence on live television.
Yeah, that was wild.
He explicitly accused the Chinese Communist Party of directly infiltrating and acquiring 220 million U.S. voter records during the 2020 election. 220 million.
Which is, that's practically the entire voting age population of our country. Just letting that number sink in is intense.
Exactly. And it instantly made me think of what Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has been warning everyone about for years. She always says, we absolutely cannot use normal democratic logic to understand China.
Right.
And when you put Trump's speech and her warnings together, it gives you absolute goosebumps. Like, we usually think geopolitics and foreign diplomacy are these distant things, right?
Yeah, totally removed from us.
But this just proves that this asymmetric infiltration, this manipulation of public opinion, it's already sitting right here in our pockets. It's in our phones. It's in our everyday lives.
It really is. And before we get too deep into this, I do want to lay down a quick ground rule for today's Sip and Talk.
Oh, yeah, definitely necessary.
Because, look, the reports and the declassified intelligence we're looking at today, it's heavy. And it touches on some highly charged domestic politics, specifically the 2020 election and our relations with Beijing.
Super polarized stuff.
Right. So we want to make it crystal clear to everyone listening. We are just impartially reporting on the claims and the counterclaims in these documents. We aren't taking any political sides. We're not endorsing any candidate. And we're definitely not endorsing the viewpoints of any foreign governments. Our goal is just to lay out the information so you can see the big picture for yourself.
Exactly. We're just looking at the board, not playing the pieces. But man, the board is looking pretty crazy right now. Trump was really aiming straight at this systemic threat.
Yeah, it was.
Because in our traditional democratic mindset, things like voter registration data and open political debate, that's all highly transparent, right? That's the bedrock of how our democracy functions.
It's supposed to be open. It's a feature, not a bug.
Right. But to the regime in Beijing, that openness is just this massive, glaring, defensive vulnerability. Takaichi calls them an abnormal democratic state. Well, an abnormal state entirely.
Yeah, a fundamentally different system.
Their core strategy is to take our openness, which we just view as normal daily life, and turn it into a weapon against us. So when Trump is up there saying they grabbed 220 million records to feed algorithms and manipulate our domestic social climate, it just perfectly validates Takaichi's warning. We're dealing with an authoritarian system that does not play by the rules.
And let's break down exactly what was said in that address, because Trump didn't just point the finger at Beijing. He went hard after our own intelligence community, too.
Oh, he really did.
He was claiming that agencies like the CIA actually had this intelligence for years, but just, hid it from the administration and the public to downplay the threat.
Which, obviously sparked a massive firestorm in Washington.
Of course. And he's using this alleged breach to heavily push for the SAVE Act now.
Right, the SAVE Act.
Yeah, which, for those who aren't familiar, it's a piece of legislation that would require strict proof of citizenship and mandatory photo ID to register to vote, while also trying to heavily restrict mail-in voting. The whole argument is that our system is just too porous.
But of course, there was immediate, massive pushback to all of this.
Oh, yeah, from all sides.
Right. The Chinese embassy immediately put out statements totally denying it, calling it a complete fabrication and just U.S. domestic political blame shifting.
Standard denial playbook.
Yeah. And then on our end, Democratic officials in previous intelligence assessments have consistently said, look, there is literally zero evidence that any foreign actor hacked a voting machine or actually changed technical vote counts.
Right. The machines weren't touched.
Exactly. And they always point out this one key defense. Voter registration data in the U.S. is mostly public record anyway.
Yeah, I've heard that defense a lot, like anyone can buy it.
Right, like a marketing firm or a political consultant can literally just use a credit card and buy voter rolls in a lot of states. So their argument is, why are we panicking over data that's already meant to be public?
But see, I feel like that totally misses the point of what's actually happening here. It reframes the whole idea of what a breach even is.
How so?
Well, we usually think of a data breach as someone stealing your credit card to drain your bank account, right? But in this asymmetric game, the currency isn't money, it's our social cohesion.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
It's like, okay, imagine you leave your family's detailed address book out on the kitchen counter, just wide open.
Because you trust your family and your neighbors.
Exactly. You assume everyone on your street plays by the same basic rules of decency. But then a hostile actor from down the street sneaks in, and they don't just steal the book, they analyze it.
They map it out.
Yes. They figure out that, Uncle Bob hasn't spoken to Cousin Greg in 5 years, or that Aunt Susan is feeling financially stressed. And armed with that exact psychological map, they start sending targeted, customized hate mail to different family members, pretending to be each other.
Wow. Just designed to make the family turn on itself.
Exactly. They didn't have to break down your front door. They didn't have to throw a punch. They just weaponized your own open information to tear your house apart from the inside.
That analogy is so spot on. It's terrifying, honestly, because they don't need to change a single physical ballot if they can just change the psychological state of the voters before they even get to the polls.
Right. They're mapping our political fault lines, which brings us right back to Takeichi. Because for decades, Washington and Wall Street, and frankly, our whole tech scene here, we really thought we were all playing a game of chess where everyone agreed on the rules, right?
Yeah, we totally projected our own values onto them.
We thought, hey, free trade is a win-win. We buy your stuff, you buy our stuff, everyone gets richer and happier. But Takeichi is basically saying, no, Beijing has been playing a completely different game this whole time.
Right. And her doctrine points out that in our democratic mindset, we draw this really hard line between civilian corporate life and the military.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if Washington tried to force one of our big tech CEOs to hand over back-end access to the Pentagon without a warrant, I mean, you'd have massive protests in the streets of San Francisco the next day.
The tech world would completely revolt.
Right. But that separation, it just fundamentally does not exist under the CCP. For them, regime security is the only thing that matters. Takeichi always points to their 2017 National Intelligence Law as the ultimate proof of this.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. How does that law actually work in practice?
So the 2017 law basically mandates that all Chinese organizations and citizens have to legally assist and cooperate with state intelligence work.
Wait, so there's no way out?
No opt-out clause. And there's no independent judge a company can run to if they want to fight a request from the state. They just have to comply.
So it completely erases the line between a private company and the government.
Exactly. They call it military-civil fusion. So when we here in the U.S. buy their tech or we use their apps, we're assuming they're just normal private companies. But legally, they are tethered to the state intelligence apparatus.
Which, looking back, makes our whole strategy for the last 30 years look incredibly naive.
Oh, it really does.
If the rule books were this completely different, why on earth did our government and our allies spend decades tying our economies to theirs?
Well, it was all based on this massive hopeful theory called the engagement policy. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, Washington firmly believed that if we brought them into the global economy, the wealth would create a middle class.
Right, the old money buys freedom theory.
Yep. The idea was that a wealthy middle class would inevitably start demanding political freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. So we championed their entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001.
But that obviously didn't happen.
Not even close. Instead of fair competition, we got hit by what economists call the China shock.
Because they didn't play by the free market rules we thought they would.
Exactly. They just used massive hidden state subsidies to prop up their own industries. And when a state-backed company doesn't actually have to turn a profit, they can just flood our markets with artificially cheap goods.
Which mechanically guts our traditional manufacturing. I mean, we saw millions of jobs just vanish from our manufacturing sectors because our companies actually had to balance a budget.
Right. And that political freedom we kept waiting for, it never showed up. The regime just took all that Western capital and used it to centralize power and build, like, the most intense digital surveillance state in human history.
That's our first massive failure right there, the WTO entry.
Yeah.
And that leads right into the second big wake-up call, which was the total vulnerability of our supply chains. We were so obsessed with corporate efficiency and cheap goods that we essentially put all our strategic eggs in one authoritarian basket.
Yeah. Japan got a really painful preview of this back in 2010.
Over the rare earth minerals, right?
Exactly. There was a territorial dispute over the Senkaku Islands, also known as the Diaoyu Islands, and Beijing just suddenly cut off all exports of rare earth elements to Japan.
And those aren't just like rocks.
No. At the time, they controlled over 90% of the global supply. These are the fundamental building blocks for everything. Smartphone screens, EV batteries, advanced defense systems.
So they just weaponized the supply chain overnight to force a political win.
Precisely. And we felt that exact same panic globally during the early days of COVID.
Oh, man, yeah. When we suddenly look around and realize that the raw materials for antibiotics, our personal protective equipment, basic medical supplies, it was all overwhelmingly controlled by one single nation.
We traded our strategic independence for cheaper consumer goods. And the third failure is realizing that they will absolutely use economic coercion, even if it hurts them financially.
Right, because we always assumed, hey, trade makes money, so it prevents conflict.
But an authoritarian regime will gladly burn a bridge and lose money if it asserts their political dominance. Look at Australia in 2020.
Oh, that was brutal. All Australia did was ask for an independent inquiry into the origins of COVID.
A totally standard request.
And Beijing's response was just a sledgehammer. They slapped massive tariffs on Australian wine, barley, coal, caused the Australian economy billions, just for asking a question.
Japan just went through the exact same thing with the total ban on their seafood imports right after the Fukushima treated water release.
Even though the International Atomic Energy Agency cleared it as completely safe.
The science didn't matter at all. The message was just, if you cross us politically, we will try to crush you economically, period.
So we've got the China shock from the WTO, the supply chain chokeholds, the irrational economic coercion. But the fourth failure, the one that really sent shockwaves through our intelligence agencies, was the 5G and telecoms dilemma.
Wow.
Exactly, Huawei. And this perfectly illustrates Takaichi's warning about projecting our norms onto them. A lot of European countries and some telecom providers over here, they looked at Huawei's 5G hardware and just saw a cheap, efficient tech.
Through a purely capitalist lens, it looked like an amazing deal.
Right. But 5G isn't just about faster downloads for your phone. It is the digital nervous system of a country. We're talking about the networks that are going to run our autonomous vehicles, our municipal water facilities, our power grids.
So if you build that foundation with hardware from a company that is legally bound by that 2017 national intelligence law,
you are literally installing a foreign intelligence kill switch right into your own critical infrastructure.
it's terrifying. And when the intelligence agencies, especially the Five Eyes Alliance, finally realized this, the panic was real. But the contracts were already signed. So now you have countries spending billions of taxpayer dollars on these rip-and-replace programs.
Literally paying people to climb cell towers and physically rip out the hardware.
It is such a massive logistical nightmare. But when you look at all four of these failures together, it makes total sense why we are seeing this massive pivot in global strategy.
Right. Washington, Tokyo, Brussels, they've all basically abandoned the whole changing China dream. We've officially moved into the era of de-risking.
Or as they call it, the small yard, high fence strategy, which I actually think is a really brilliant way to visualize it.
Yeah, explain how that works, because it's pretty key to what our government is doing right now.
So the strategy admits that completely decoupling our economies is impossible. It would destroy the global economy. So we keep trading general stuff, agriculture, clothes, basic electronics. That all sits outside the yard.
Okay, so normal trade continues for the non-critical stuff.
Right. But the small yard is where we keep the critical technologies that will decide the future. Advanced semiconductors, AI, quantum computing, biotech. We take those, put them in a small yard, and build a massive regulatory fence around them.
Which is exactly why Washington pushed the GPS Act.
Exactly. Pouring billions of dollars to bring semiconductor manufacturing back to our own soil so we aren't at the mercy of their supply chains anymore.
It's totally a defensive posture. We're actively managing the risk now, instead of just blindly trusting the process.
But that actually brings up a really good point. If the threat is this obvious and we have all these historical examples of our openness being exploited, why are there still so many voices here at home pushing us to just play nice?
Yeah, you turn on the financial news or go to a tech conference, and there are always these high-profile executives saying, oh, Washington is overreacting. We need to de-escalate. Let's just get back to doing business.
Well, it's the oldest rule in the book, follow the money.
Corporate dependencies.
Exactly. In this super polarized environment, a lot of the loudest voices begging for engagement are deeply personally compromised by their own financial interests.
Right, because you have multinational CEOs whose companies rely on the Chinese market for like 40% of their global revenue.
Yes. Or massive investment firms with billions locked into overseas joint ventures. For these guys, their quarterly profits and their personal stock options are way more important than our long-term national security.
So they basically deploy lobbyists to Washington to fight against export controls, or they use their platforms to ignore human rights abuses.
They effectively become domestic mouthpieces for Beijing's foreign policy.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And that economic leverage ties directly into the most dangerous part of this asymmetric game, the domestic information war. Because the biggest threat we face today isn't a military blockade.
No, it's information dominance.
And this brings us right back to the beginning of the show, that July 2026 White House address and the 220 million voter records.
Right, because when you connect those stolen records to the idea of information dominance, the real strategy becomes so clear. They didn't steal 200 million profiles to hack a county voting machine.
No, they took that incredibly detailed, granular data, your age, your zip code, your voting history, what videos you watch, what articles make you angry, and they feed it into advanced AI and social media algorithms.
It's all about creating customized parallel realities.
Exactly. If your data says you lean left, the algorithm just bombards your feed with inflammatory content saying the right is trying to destroy the country.
Oh.
And if you lean right, your feed is flooded with content convincing you the left is dismantling civilization.
It's just an endless cycle of outrage. And the horrifying genius of it is that they don't even need to promote a specific candidate.
No, the goal is just polarization itself.
Right, because it is so much cheaper to fund a digital disinformation campaign than it is to build an aircraft carrier. If they can use AI to divide us so deeply that we hate our own neighbors, our whole democratic process just freezes.
We get too fractured to pass a budget or agree on foreign policy or mount any kind of unified response to what they're doing globally.
It is the asymmetric game in its absolute purest form. I mean, we built this open, decentralized internet to connect people, and they looked at that exact same internet and saw the ultimate frictionless delivery system for cognitive warfare.
Man, that is a heavy realization. It means this whole geopolitical battle isn't just happening on some negotiation table or in the South China Sea.
Whoa, it's happening right here, on the phones in our pockets.
Every time you're just standing in line at the grocery store, scrolling through your feed, mindlessly sharing some highly polarizing meme, you might literally be doing the heavy lifting for a foreign intelligence operation without even knowing it.
Wow. Yeah, recognizing that is definitely the first step to defending against it.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the whole picture we've covered today. The pattern is undeniable. From Trump's speech about the voter data to Takaichi's warning that we have to stop projecting our norms onto them.
We looked at how our blind trust caused the WTO failures, the supply chain vulnerabilities, the Huawei 5G crisis. It all stems from that same naive assumption.
So the overarching lesson here, whether you're a policymaker in Washington or just a citizen scrolling on your phone, is that when you're dealing with an authoritarian regime, you have to look at what they do, not what they say.
Action over rhetoric, always.
Right. They can talk about win-win cooperation at diplomatic summits all day. But if they're passing laws to fuse their military and civilian sectors, punishing our allies with economic coercion and vacuuming up our citizens' data, we have to base our defenses on those actions.
Exactly. It's the only reliable metric we have.
Well said. And as we wrap up, we always like to leave you with a provocative thought, something to chew on based on what we've unpacked today.
Go for it.
We've talked a lot about how our government and our allies are spending billions to de-risk our physical supply chains, right? Building new fabs, securing critical minerals. But here's the question for you. As an individual navigating this hyper-connected, algorithmic world, how can you de-risk your own information supply chain?
Oh, that is the defining civic challenge of our time. How do you curate your own social media diet and verify what you're reading so your mind isn't just being weaponized by invisible algorithms?
Exactly. How do you build your own personal high fence around your critical thinking without losing the open society and free speech that we're actually trying to protect.
It's a huge balancing act.
It is. But in an era of cognitive warfare, maintaining your independent thought isn't just a personal choice anymore. It's our most critical line of defense.
Perfectly said.
Thank you all so much for joining us on Sip and Talk today. Keep questioning, keep reading. And hey, before we go, don't forget to check out our good old buddy Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. He's always got some great stuff over there, so definitely give him a subscribe.
Yeah, shout out to Mickey. Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone. We will catch you on the next one.